morning. Hello, my name is theoliverpickard and welcome to my workshop. Now I have some explaining to do, don't I? So, in a previous video, if this is your first Dyane video, we repainted the back half of the car after replacing the boot floor and the rear chassis boxes and all of that. Now, after doing that, when we repainted the car, we realised that this colour is a very different colour than this colour. Partly that's because this is an older respray, and it's also because of like UV and sun and stuff like that, and being, 50 years old. Now, we've decided that it's not worth painting the entire car. We're not going to do a full respray because that would add another €700 to, if you add in sandpaper, thinners, all of that stuff. It would add in another over €700 to the budget for this car, and it would add weeks more videos. And my dad really wants to get going on Pandora, and so do I. And at the end of the day, this car, when we started this series, was rotten, rusted, and rather unsafe. Actually, incredibly unsafe if you added all of the bodges that we've removed. So we are really happy with how it stands. And in between videos, we have all done an inordinate amount of buffing and polishing and cutting back of the original paint, and it's still not perfect, but if you stand 50 feet away, close one eye and stand on one leg, it looks the same-ish. And if nobody told you, you probably wouldn't notice unless you sat and looked at the car for a little while. And this isn't a show car at the end of the day, it's my parents' daily driver, so we shall have to live with it for now. In other news, my dad has painted the interior, so that is done. He brush painted it in the end. It's not like show car quality, but at the end of the day, this is a car that gets bags of cement chucked in the back of it, and plywood and all sorts. So it's good enough to have a seat and a floor mat on top of it and all of that kind of thing. And my dad, rather than making it perfect, he went out of his way to paint it as thick as possible, because of course there is absolutely no point going to all this trouble if you do a really thin paint job that looks perfect and then the first time you put something in the boot, it scratches. So what we're going to be doing today is basically putting the car back together. There is a couple of things that we're going to do that are special. We're going to be putting in a new kind of, I'm not going to call it a headliner, but kind of the stuff that goes there. We're going to be putting that in. We have all new fancy, better than new quality stuff from Matt Soft Tops. Dad's going to be making a lid that fits in here that covers up your spare wheel well. That's one of the best modifications you can do to a 2CV, and it's just a little piece of plywood. But what it gives you is kind of hidden storage where you can keep your tools and things like that in your boot. And then you can, or a spare tyre, and then you can put stuff on top. I have it in my car. There were multiple, there was actually a Dyane from the factory edition that you could buy that does exactly the same thing. They made one for the 2CV as well, the NAT kit, but you can make one at home with just some plywood, so we're going to be doing that. We've also got some carpet to put in it for the back, some floor mats. We've got the back doors to put back on, we've got this window to put back in, got loads of stuff to do. So we better get cracking, eh? Let's get stuck in, shall we? Don't forget, when you put your doors on, put your limiting straps on. The rubber straps that attach the door to the bodywork. Because in between putting the door on and putting the limiting strap on, if the door gets open too much, it'll actually damage the door. So I've got some Suicide Door 2CV door seal, and we're going to be replacing these gooey, horrible bits of knackered rubber that I don't think are even from this. So make some new ones, and then they can be all pretty. Now I won't tighten this up until we get the hatchback on, and then we can line the hatchback up properly. Because there's adjustment in this. May need a bit of dynamite on it. So my next job is to clean up and polish all of this incredibly delicate trim which goes on at the top of the rear wings, kind of around the wing, between the wing and the car, and it's incredibly fragile and it's incredibly easy to damage. So this should be fun.
Need a bit of dynamite on that. Eh?
Have you got a door marker?
Yeah. Perfect.
Perfect. Overspray on everything. Everything on this car that isn't bodged has been covered in overspray, including the windscreen. In fact, the other day I spent 2 hours polishing the windscreen to get all of the overspray off the windscreen, using my favourite glass polishing thing, because it's probably like the most gentle for scratches and stuff in windscreens from windscreen wipers and all of that stuff, is paint scratch remover. It takes a while to do it, you've got to be very patient, but yeah, paint scratch remover. I had big arc shaped scratches in my windscreen, and as long as they're not too deep, you can polish them out on an old fashioned windscreen. You just need a bit of patience and, like I say, some €3 scratch remover. I'm not going to try removing all of this. I think it's old primer, like lead primer. Yeah, I'm just not going to. I'm just going to clean up what you can see and get all the overspray off and make it nice. I don't want to work on them too much. I don't want to risk them just disintegrating in my hands because they are incredibly delicate. Don't get any overspray on my car! You'll ruin the paint in it. Oi, bugger!
Yeah, right. I wouldn't want to ruin your pristine gel coat.
Exactly.
A little longer than a few minutes later.
This is of course all of the door seals and stuff, and I've already put a few on, but the biggest problem with making a car nice is then you notice the second least nice thing, and then you notice the other least nice thing, whereas when it's all a mess it all kind of just blends together into a messy blob. But these door seals are full of overspray. I don't know if you can see that. Blue all the way down. And I'm not willing to let these door seals go back on covered in overspray. So I'm going to very gently, with some 800 grit sandpaper, just clean them up, and then we can have nice door seals. Because as much as I want to finish this car, I'm not willing to put door seals back on a car that are full of overspray. And this is why it takes me forever to make a video, because I'm not willing to just slap it together. It has to be right. Because I have to look at it and feel proud. Luckily, paint isn't very good at sticking to rubber.
I need the trim piece.
Right, slide the trim piece in after.
Yeah.
hardest thing to do is not let it go in the get crushed now.
Hang on. Whoa.
Getting crushed. Yeah. So we have some superior quality headliner stuff, the stuff that goes in here, and we've just been figuring out where it all goes, mapping it all out, what we're going to do with it, and then it's time to stick it in. And this car is going to very quickly start looking like a car again, which is nice. Try and get one edge located first. That's what we've done. Thumbs of steel.
It's in.
If you don't have a thumb of steel, you can use one of those plastic tire levers.
I'll buy one on Amazon.
Dad has just learnt that I put links down in the description and you can buy stuff. That's like, buy stuff. Trusty. When you do this, the more flexible you wire, the better. This stuff's really old and stiff. We've given ourselves quite the job. You can also use like paracord, like the sailing sail string, or paracord, which is like really strong, really thin synthetic stuff. If you've got it, or if you can get it. And there is a top. It's not square. It goes in like that by about 5 or 10 millimeters. Right.
Ta-da!
Woohoo! You're gonna put some grease on. And brand new stainless steel washers, because there was only one washer in originally, and they can't share, can they? It's so pretty.
And that is how you put a front door, window in. So basically you take the back, when you're taking the glass out, you twist this back piece out, like I've just done. You push the window forward, you take the back out, you slide the window as far back as you can, and you take the front out. And then basically you can just pop it all out completely.
So here's my LED panel that I'm going to be fitting into, well, I've already really fit it into the interior light. Now I've just used a slip connector over the back of the bulb holder, so our switch will still work. And if I screw this in, my earth is of course to the screw that it was designed to earth through, so I haven't removed anything, it's completely reversible, hopefully. It's a bit fiddly. And this isn't a classic cars LEDs panel like I usually get my LEDs from. This is just a super cheap one that I bought in Spain actually, and I've had in my box of stuff ever since. I'm hoping I can just hold it. I've put some foam tape down to stop it vibrating or rattling, and I'm hoping I can just hold it in place with the pressure of the spring. Come on, go in the slot. There we go, in the slot it goes. It being hard to put back together is a good sign. There we go. Because that means it should hold it all in place nicely. Took the wire around the back. That bit's stuck. No more maraca.
Clip, you blighter. There we go.
Right, so one of the problems with this car is that this windscreen wiper motor always tries to run off every time it's turned on. So we're going to tighten it up, and we're going to also give it a little bit of a service because it's super noisy. Right, so you're going to have to remove it, I think. It needs tightening up from the other side. Huh. Okay. It's worth buying a French car for no other reason that you get to use all of the tools in your toolbox you've never used before. For example, a 7mm socket. I'm going to end up having to take this off to get it back on because there were nuts in the back. Unfortunately, unlike mine, it's not on captives. That is all that was wrong. That bolt needs tightening up and that bolt needs tightening up. I didn't want to have to take the dashboard off. I was trying to do it without taking the dashboard off, but I can't see any way of getting those nuts back on there without taking the dashboard off. Somebody somewhere is shouting at their TV right now because there'll be a way you'll be able to pop a windscreen wiper switch out or something and reach the screw, but from where I am I can't see. They're on captives in my car. The wiper motor is actually on captive bolts that go into the structure of the car. It's not like this, from what I remember anyway, but you still have to take the dashboard off, so it wouldn't be any different. Dyane's 2 CVs but with extra steps. I thought, oh, it'll be really easy because you can see the wiper motor. Nope. Good. Well, they made this a pleasure of a job to do, didn't they? Now I know why Dad's like, oh, you can do this one. He knew the blighter. Turn this out of the way and then, for the moment. Yeah, teeny tiny bolts and teeny tiny serrated washers. Wonderful. I'm going to have to take this off. Okay, so I was wrong. What I had to do was take off these nuts and the whole thing would have slid back. What we're getting there. We are moving in the right direction and that is what matters. I hope. The heater box is in the way. Okay, I finally got it off. So I had to undo the windscreen wiper spindles and then I had to unbolt this from in the engine bay. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to take this apart, I will show you what it looks like inside and we'll give it a clean because it's easier to do what's in your hand, I suppose, and then we'll bolt it all back together again. Oh, what fun! It's nice to get out of the heat. It's been a really cool year this year, and quite damp, and then all of a sudden it's piping hot and it's incredibly humid. Good sweating weather. Okay, now some of these are 12 volts, some of these are 6 volt. Mine's identical, but it's a 6 volt one. But they all work in identically the same way. So you've got your windings, and that essentially is your motor. And then you've got these carbon bushes. So that sits on your motor. And there's a little hook. It hooks on here, like that. And a lot of people replace these motors because they kind of stop working a little bit, and there's absolutely no need to. You just need to service it. That comes out like that. And what we're going to do is we're going to clean this up, and then we're going to re-grease this axle here that it runs on, basically, because all that can happen is it can get a bit bound up. This one looks perfect, but while we've got it in my hand, we might as well, see how that's greasy in there? That needs re-greasing because there's like a little gearbox in here. Right, so the two bits that really need cleaning is here can get dirty, but not really. It's this winding here, this brass bush there. And these, the little gaps in between, all fill up with carbon from these bushes here. These little graphite bushes, they're the only thing that can really wear out on these motors. And yes, I'm using Facom glue. You can use WD-40 as well. Doesn't actually matter. All it is kind of it's degreasing and oiling it at the same time. And the graphite is self-lubricating, but it can get gunked up. So, got a bit of paper. It's like new. Yeah. And I'm just going to clean these off as well. These can get sticky just from kind of stuff in your cabin. Obviously, after 50 years, anything can get a bit sticky. And this does make contact. That makes contact on these jaws here. Whoop. On these jaws, and these are the things that move when you turn your windscreen wipers on. This relay moves this top jaw, I think it is. I have on my Instagram a video. I'll see if I can dig it off Instagram and upload it on here. But I have a video of my windscreen wiper motor, and they make a lovely noise as well when they're in perfect working order. Except this one is fine; it doesn't need anything really. But if I have to take it off the car, I might as well sort it out. The F2, hideously expensive bicycle grease that's kind of way better than automotive stuff. It's got Teflon in it and all sorts. And then we just, can you see that helical gear? We're just going to screw it into the helical gear and it just pops in. I know that old Ferraris used to use Marshall lights. I wonder if they use Marshall windscreen wipers as well. Windscreen wiper motors. I'll know when I get an email from a Ferrari owner. And they're like, oh my god, thank you so much. My Daytona windscreen wipers now work. It's tempting to run it without the cover, just to look at it. But there is actually a bush in the cover that sits on there. So that point there sits on the back of that white dot. And so you can look at it running, but I don't advise leaving it off for any period of time really, if you can help it. Last year, or in winter, whenever it was, my windscreen wipers stopped working, and that's how I figured out how to do this. But I did it in the car with the cover, like with the motor bolted to the car. Took me 2 minutes, and my windscreen wipers have never been better. So there we go. One happy windscreen wiper motor. Because I've got it off and in my hand, what I'm going to do, I'm going to clean it all up and give it all a dab of grease. Because again, what a lot of people don't seem to know is that penetrating fluid like this is actually a cleaner. It's a cleaner with oil in it. It's a degreaser with oil. And I use it more as a cleaner than I do as kind of an oil. I prefer to use like a thin grease or an actual oil than just using like WD-40 or Facom Goo or anything like that. It's a very, very good cleaner. It's also good for getting sticky off stuff. You know, you get a sticker and it leaves like a big horrible sticky mark. It's really good at that as well. Like anything that you can't get heat on, like a hairdryer is the best thing in the world for taking stickers off. But anything that you can't really put heat on or into, and you end up peeling your sticker off and you get a horrible residue. Anytime something's an absolute nightmare to get out or work on, I always like to give myself a minute before putting it back in. And the best way to do that is by really thoroughly cleaning it and greasing it. And that makes me feel better that I probably won't have to mess with it again for a really long time because of what I've just been through. So yeah, that's that's the mentality. I'm not the most dexterous of people as far as like fingers and stuff are concerned. It doesn't help that I have giant plate-sized hands. But even when I was a kid, I wasn't massively like good at detail stuff. I'm sure someone out there can is the same. But people used to, because I've always liked mechanical stuff, people used to buy me Meccano for birthday presents and stuff like that. And Meccano comes with these teeny tiny nuts and bolts and these teeny tiny spanners, and I was like, thank you for this torture device which you at great expense have given me. And I used to try and make stuff with Meccano, and I'd just get frustrated because the bolts are so tiny and fiddly and like super cheap metal. It's so easy to cross thread them. But I tell you what, it did teach me a little bit about sympathy when it comes to getting a nut and bolt on straight and not cross threading and all that. I'm not saying that I don't ever do it, because anybody who says that they don't ever do it is lying. But it did teach me from a very young age to take my time and then put it in a box and go and play the Sega Mega Drive. Take my time, put it away carefully, and then go and do something else because it was infuriating. I think that washer goes on there. It does. Haha. Citroen washers are serrated on the back. I love details like that, so that they don't spin or slip. If you notice on a lot of... Oh, that's a 7mm. If you notice on a lot of Citroen bolts, they actually have the Citroen logo stamped. And when I got the MX-5 suspension for Pandora for the front end, I was very, very, very pleasantly surprised that all the Mazda bolts have the old Mazda logo, the old lowercase m. And I love that. It's a really nice feature to take something apart and just to see that little Citroen logo or see that little Mazda logo. It's a really nice feature. And I always think, you know, when you've got something of quality, when even the stuff that you can't see is beautiful. So when you take the door apart and there's something that nobody that's ever going to, like, unless you're servicing the car, you're never going to see it. And yet it's there and it's pretty and it was put there for you. And it comes in really handy when you've got a box of bolts, because I can always find a Citroen bolt, and Citroen bolts are always really funny sizes. So it's just one of those lovely little things when a car company has custom hardware made for them. It makes you feel special. It makes you feel like you've bought something that's a little bit bespoke and a little bit special and a little bit nice. Remember, kids, you can't polish a turd, but you can roll it in glitter.
Early the next morning.
Good morning. So it turns out that it's quite involved tightening those two bolts up, and you have to remove the entire windscreen wiper assembly and everything. I managed to do it, I've done it, now I've put it all back together again. Actually, I've done it twice, because I found a stray washer that I'd forgotten, so I had to take it all back out again and put it all back in again, which is why I'm wearing a different coloured t-shirt. However, we've now got a whole new bushel of problems, because a lot of the electrical system isn't working. We think we've got a bad earth somewhere, so that's what Dad's doing now. So for example, my windscreen wipers should be working, and they're not. That's not my fault, that's not what I've done. It's we've got a bad earth somewhere. So Dad's tracing a bad earth, and I've just put all this back in. Because last night I was so exhausted, I couldn't be bothered. So I just bolted this vent back in, which it turns out this little vent here is held in by more bolts than the engine is. So yeah, that was fun. And my advice to you, if you need to tighten those two bolts, is just sell your car. It's not worth it. Just let it be someone else's problem. Like, just have done with it. No, it's doable. It takes way longer than you think it will. Well, we still have a bad earth at the rear. We've still got no driving lights, and we seem to have a bulb out in the front. But that sound is the gentle whir of victory. And we've got a non-moving motor, and if you look at the windscreen wiper motors, yay!
Okay, so this is a broken indicator handle, and in here there's a ball, and behind it is a spring, and this is the replacement. When you take these apart, you have to be really careful, because this ball will bounce spring away and you might lose it. So when you take it apart, you've got to be really careful.
It's a really common thing, is this. I had exactly the same problem on my car.
There it is, look.
Click it first, make sure you haven't done it up too tight, they don't want to click. No, that's what they're like. Just undo it just slightly. You have to be really careful, you don't do them up too tightly. That makes it really difficult to engage your indicator. Right, so we've sorted this bulb out in the end. It was just simply a blown bulb. That's all it was. I think what had happened was the front one had a loose connection, so all the power went to the back, and because there's no fuse between the two, it blew this bulb. But we've sorted it out now, so we can put the Citroen logo back on. There we go. Ta-da! here. Top tip, a Renault Laguna 2 rear carpet is the exact size of a 2CV ENAC boot. Now the reason why I said Renault Laguna 2 rear carpet is because it's got a lot of soundproofing in it and it weighs an absolute ton, but it's brilliant, it's superbly made. Now it is slightly larger than the Dyane boot, but that's a good thing because it'll protect the edges of the boot and it'll protect the back seats and stop things rolling from the boot underneath the back seat, so it's absolutely fine. So yeah, you can pick these up from your local scrapyard for very little money, a lot cheaper than a much lower quality reproduction Dyane or 2CV boot carpet. And if you have a boot lid like we've just made, or like my dad's just made, in your 2CV, this is the best thing money can buy. And you can pick them up for like 20 quid, 25 quid, like it's nothing, and it's a bargain. So let's get it fitted, shall we? And we use the pull tab for the Laguna carpet in our lid. So there we go, the perfect Dyane boot floor. This kind of modification is just the best thing that you can do to a 2CV, in my opinion. It's the best add-on that you can have if you were going to do anything, because it means you can keep your tool rolling, a spare wheel and everything underneath here, and still have room for a dog in the back, or still have room to sit like this and you know, eat a sandwich in the back of your car when you go to a picnic or anything like that, and put bags of shopping on top of it and everything. And you don't have stuff piled on top of stuff. It just makes everything far more usable. And like I say, I have mine, and it's one of the best things that's on my car, and it's one of the things that everyone who emails me and tells me what they think that they should add to their 2CV. A lot of people say, oh, does it need more power, does it need this, does it need that? And I'm like, doesn't need more power, it is what it is. You can't really make a 2CV that much faster without making it less of a 2CV, but one of the best things that you can do is fit one of these. So I hope you like all of the work that we've done to the car. It's been a lot, has this. It's been a long week, and it's been a lot of work. It's all the little tiny buttoning up jobs, all the finishing off jobs, but I'm massively happy. So next week we're going to be fitting the brand new roof, and I'll show you how to roll back a Dyane roof as well as roll back my 2CV roof, because they are different. So I hope you'll join me for that, and if you'd like to, make sure you've clicked subscribe by clicking on my face. There is the first Dyane video there, because if this is your first Dyane video, then you should see how this thing started. And there is a video about my 2CV right there, and a video about Pandora, which is the little mid-engine speed machine that's been in the back of most of this video. Thank you all for watching, please be awesome to each other, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye bye.